Hello and warm regards from nextias team. Welcome to another episode of the Daily News Analysis. The topics that we are covering today include Madhav National Park, second will be smart proteins, third will be Tejas Aircraft, then ad hoc judges, and lastly in detail we are going to discuss India-Mauritius relations. The first topic that we have today is about the Madhav National Park. It is the 58th tiger reserve that has been declared by India. Now this topic is relevant from your environment and ecology portion and it comes under GS 3. But basically it is important from the prelims point of view. Now, what is the backdrop for this news? The backdrop is that Madhav National Park in Madhya Pradesh is declared as the 58th tiger reserve, and for Madhya Pradesh it is the 9th tiger reserve. So Madhya Pradesh is total having 9 tiger reserves. Now, something about the Madhav National Park. This Madhav National Park, this is situated in the Shivpuri town of the Madhya Pradesh, that is in the northern Madhya Pradesh, and it is the part of Upper Vindhya Hills. So in Atlas you have to see where these Vindhyas are, so that you are aware about the location also. Now, what are the important geographical things that are near this national park? The first one is Sakhya Sagar, that is the lake there, then Madhav Sagar Lake, on which this name has been put up. Now, the important rivers that flow through this national park are Amar Nadi and Sindh River. Now tell me, Sindh River, which is the for which river this is tributary to? So you have to write down which river the Sindh river is tributary to. Now next is vegetation. The vegetation in this national park is tropical dry deciduous vegetation and dry thorn vegetation. Now flora and fauna are going to be according to this only. For example, Kardai, Salai, Daura, Khair, these type of plants are found here. And in fauna, we have Nilgai, Chinkara, Chosinga, deers including Chintal, Chittal, Sambar, barking deer. So these are the important biodiversity that are found in this national park. Now it was initially a hunting ground for Mughal emperors and Maharaja of Gwalior, and it was declared a national park in 1958. Now it has been declared as a tiger reserve. The other tiger reserves of Madhya Pradesh include Virangana Durgavati Tiger Reserve, which were declared in 2023. Now after that there was another tiger reserve that was declared, that was Ratanpari Wildlife Sanctuary in 2024, and recent one is Madhav Tiger Reserve of 2025. Previously the important tiger reserves have been Panna, Bandhavgarh, Sanjay Dubri, Kahana, Pench and Satpura. The locations are mentioned in the PPT and you can download it from the download section. Now next comes how do we declare a tiger reserve? What is the process for declaring a tiger reserve? See that for declaring a tiger reserve, the process has been mentioned in the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. This act under section 38V says that a tiger reserve will be declared by the state. So first of all, the state has to identify a suitable area for the tiger reserve. So it is the responsibility of the state itself. Now after identification, it has to prepare a detailed proposal, and that detailed proposal will be submitted to the NTCA. NTCA means National Tiger Conservation Authority. Now after submission of this proposal and it has been approved by the NTCA, then the state government can put up a preliminary notification. Now why there is a preliminary notification? Preliminary notification is there because to address any kind of objections or suggestions that are there. So after admitting any kind of suggestions or objections, a final notification will be issued by the state government. After issuing the final notification, the particular area will be declared as the tiger reserve. Now this is the process for mandating a tiger reserve, that how an area will be declared as a tiger reserve. Now the next question is, if a state wants that it want to denotify an area as a tiger reserve, that means initially it was a tiger reserve, but now the state wants that it should not be a tiger reserve. It want to denotify it. For denotification, the process is little bit different. It has been mentioned in the section 38W of the World Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Under this, the state has to take permission from National Tiger Conservation Authority as well as from the National Board for Wildlife. After approval by these two bodies, only the state can denotify a tiger reserve. Denotification simply means कि अब वो tiger reserve नहीं रहेगा. Now, next pertinent question is, what is NTCA? Because UPSC has also asked this question previously. Now, NTCA is a statutory body and it is under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. That is very much obvious. Now, this NTCA, it was established in 2006 under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. The composition is very simple. The Minister in charge of the MOE FCC or Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change will be the chairman, and vice chairman will be Minister of State for the concerned ministry. Along with that, there will be 3 members of Parliament, Secretary of MOE FCC, and other members will also be there. So this is going to be the constitution of the National Tiger Conservation Authority. Now, regarding tiger conservation, what we have found is that at the time of independence, we were having tigers that were more than a very large number. And in 1972, it was reduced to 2000. So in that case, we have launched certain programs. Now, before dwelling into the programs, let's see what is the status of the tiger. The tiger status is considered as endangered one in the IUCN list. And under Wildlife Protection Act, it has been accorded the highest protection status, that is under Schedule 1 of the WPA Act of 1972. Now, there has been, first of all, trans-boundary conservation, because not only India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, they are also having tiger population. So, India collaborates with the neighboring countries such as Bangladesh for the tiger conservation, for example, in Sundarban. Last year, India has launched one International Big Cats Alliance, IBCA. Now, this Big Cat Alliance means that it is going to include the 7 big cats. These 7 big cats are tiger, leopard, snow leopard, lion, cheetah, puma and jaguar. So, these are the 7 big cats. This was launched by our Honorable Prime Minister in 2023. Its focus is to strengthen the global cooperation and conservation efforts regarding tiger conservation. Now, along with that, we are also having another important project, that is Project Tiger. It was launched in 1973 on April 1. Now, April 1, we also say that it is an April Fool Day, but here this is important because on this day that Project Tiger was released. The basic objective was that initially in 1947, the tiger population in India was 40,000 and it was reduced to 2,000. So as to maintain the ecological balance. Why? Because tiger is a keystone species. Tiger is a keystone species. So keystone species is very important and their conservation is also very important. So to conserve them, we launched this Project Tiger. And in this time only, we had this enactment of the Wildlife Protection Act also. Now, how it is being implemented? First of all, it is the legislative support is provided by WPA or Wildlife Protection Act, enacted by the Honorable Prime Minister at that time. Now, initially it covered 9 reserves. They were across Assam, Bihar, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. And now current focus is on conserving both tigers and their natural habitats to maintain ecological balance. So it focuses on 2 things. First of all, conservation of tiger. Secondly, its habitat also, because without habitat, it is very difficult to conserve a tiger. Now, based upon this information, you are in a position to attempt a prelims question. And this is a prelims question that was asked in previous year itself. So, please attempt it and put your answers in the comment box. Now, next topic we have is about smart proteins. Smart proteins, it is relevant from the GS3 paper under Science and Technology. So, it can be in the mains as well as it can also be asked in the prelims part. Now, what is the backdrop for the news? The backdrop is that the government under its BioE3 initiative, this initiative is important, is funding research to develop smart proteins as sustainable alternatives to the traditional protein source. So, first of all, we have to see what are smart proteins, what is this BioE3 initiative, and lastly, we have to see what are the processes through which this smart protein can be developed. Now, let's see. First question first, what are smart proteins? The smart proteins are also known as alternate proteins. They actually mimic the taste and texture of the traditional proteins and they have the same value of the nutrition that the proteins provide to us. Now, they can be produced using fermentation, plant-based and cell culture-based methods. So, there can be basically 3 methods through which these can be developed. First is fermentation, second is plant-based method, and third one is cell culture method. Now this smart proteins simply means that the non-vegetarian food that is the main source of the protein, these smart proteins are going to have the similar texture and taste as these non-vegetarian proteins we are having. So we are talking in that terms. Now, why do we need these smart proteins? First of all, the traditional protein sources, for example, non-vegetarian sources, they have various fallouts. First of all, they have high amount of carbon emissions. For example, nurturing a chicken itself needs a lot of amount of resources. There will be a lot of carbon emissions also. There is resource overuse also. There is a challenge of food insecurity also, because we have limited sources and the cost is very high. Then the issue of climate change is also related, because these carbon emissions are contributing towards the climate change. And lastly, they are also responsible for zoonotic diseases. For example, the last COVID-19, we have these apprehensions that it was a zoonotic disease and it actually was transmitted from the animals to the humans. So there are these things also. Then the avian flu case is also there, because consuming poultry which is infected with avian flu, it can also infect the humans. So there are multiple challenges with the traditional food systems which are related with the protein sources, especially the non-vegetarian sources. Now these synthetic proteins, how they can be beneficial for us. First of all, they have 70 to 99% less usage of water. So we are actually saving our water. Secondly, the land required, it is also very less. 47 to 99% less land will be required in developing these alternative proteins or smart proteins. Then third, the water pollution will also be less. Already the water bodies, they will also be less infected. For example, in the traditional proteins itself, if we talk about, to maintain the health of the poultry, the antibiotic injections are given. Now these kind of problems can be avoided in these smart proteins because they are not related with that. Then the greenhouse gas emissions can also be reduced. So whatever challenges we are facing with respect to the traditional food systems which were linked as the protein sources, these can be avoided by use of the smart proteins. So I think you have got a fair amount of idea what are smart proteins and why do we need to switch to the smart proteins. What is the significance of the smart proteins? Now next thing that comes is that what are the methods to which these smart proteins can be made. Now first is that the fermentation derived proteins. Fermentation simply means that the sources will be microbes, for example algae, bacteria or fungi. But there is challenge also. The challenge is that it has a high cost. The cost of biomanufacturing is very high, so we have to reduce that cost. Along with that, the research should be focused upon areas like developing recombinant microbial systems. Secondly, enhancing yield through optimized pathways, so there should be yield enhancement also. Thirdly, through gene editing, the strain productivity should be improved, so their focus will also be on that. Then next, eliminating allergens and toxins. Lastly, utilizing agricultural byproducts instead of glucose, so that we are able to utilize the byproducts as well. So the waste products can also be utilized here. So this is the first method, that is fermentation. Fermentation is done by microbes, algae, fungi or bacteria. So through that process we are going to manufacture the proteins. Second method is cell culture based proteins. So we are actually going to have edible animal cells that will be grown in the labs. So there will be no problem with respect to cruelty towards the animal. Whatever protein source we need, they can be grown in the labs. For example, मान लो कि leg piece है in the chicken, that can be grown in the lab itself. So these kind of proteins can be used. Lastly are the plant-based proteins. In the plant-based protein, the key feature is that they mimic the meat taste and the texture. Now the problem with respect to plant protein is that first of all the pesticide residues that they have. Second is the allergens and anti-nutrients that these plant-based proteins are having. Next thing comes is that what our research should be focusing upon. The research should be focusing upon extracting proteins from underutilized crops and byproducts, so that these waste going products can be utilized. Secondly, blending plant and fermentation based proteins so that the texture and nutrition can be improved. So we are going to focus upon blending the fermented and the plant based proteins so that their texture and nutrition can be improved. And lastly, masking unwanted flavors that are present in the plant based proteins. So these are the three methods through which the smart proteins can be developed. Now next thing, something about the Bio E3 policy. Bio E3 policy simply means biotechnology for economy, environment and employment policy. Now it is focusing upon three things: economy, environment and employment. So social part is there, economic part is there and sustainability part is also there. Now it is being implemented by, as you know, Department of Biotechnology, Ministry of Science and Technology, because it is related with technology aspect. Second is that it will boost technology development through biomanufacturing, bio AI hubs and bio foundry. Lastly, it will support the non-zero carbon economy, that is, it is going to help in reducing the carbon footprint that is required in protein production. Also, it is going to help in lifestyle for environment and green growth. So in a way, it will promote circular bioeconomy for sustainable development. So this is the object of this Bio E3 policy, and this was launched in 2024. Now, based upon whatever discussion we have done, you are in a position to attempt the MCQ available on the screen. Please attempt the MCQ and post your answers in the comment box. Now, next topic that we have is about Tejas Aircraft, that is light compact aircraft. This topic is relevant from the GS paper 3 point of view, that is the defense sector of ours. So it can come under science and technology, defense and security aspect. Now we are indigenizing our technology with respect to the defense equipments. Now what is the backdrop here? The backdrop is the first rear fusées for LCA Tejas MK1A manufactured by the Alpha Tocon Engineering Private Limited was handed over to HAL. Now HAL is leading the project, but this is an example of PPP, public-private sector partnership. Now we are actually outsourcing the development of these aircraft to the private sector. So private sector is also learning, they are also able to do research work there, and we are also getting the aspects of efficiency and other investment like aspects from their side. Now something about this rear fuselage. Now what is this rear fuselage? The fuselage is the main body of the aircraft which holds the pilot, passengers and cargo. Rear fuselage means that it supports the tail section and associated components. So basically it is the main body of the aircraft. Now about something about the Tejas. So it is a 4.5 generation aircraft, and it is supersonic multi-role fighter aircraft. One of the important features of this aircraft is that it is smallest and the lightest supersonic compact aircraft in its class. So in its class, it is the lightest and supersonic fighter aircraft. It is powered by a single uprated Genetic Electric F4F GEIN20 engine. So engine is by GE or Genetic General Electronics. Next is that it is designed for offensive air support, close range combat and ground strike missions. It features a fin but lacks a horizontal tail. Now it is India's second homegrown fighter jet after HAL HF-24 Marut. So you should be knowing that which are the India's homegrown fighter jets or indigenous technology in fighter jets. One is Tejas and previously it was H-24 Marut. So this is important here. Now it is designed to carry variety of air-to-air, air-to-surface and precision-guided weapons. Next thing is that Light Compact Aircraft Program of India. So India is having two programs. One is Light Compact Aircraft Program. Second one is Medium Compact Aircraft Program. Now in this Light Compact Aircraft Program, it was conceptualized in 1980s to replace the MiG-21 fleet. So basic objective was to replace the MiG-21 fleet. Now the first flight of LCA technology demonstrator was held in January 2001. So it has been 24 years since we had the first demonstrator flight of that. Now, what are the key models here? LCA Tejas Mk1. LCA simply means light compact aircraft. So Tejas Mk1. Then trainer variant is there. Then Tejas Mk1A is there, which is upgradation of the previous one. Then we are having Tejas Mk2, which is under developmental stage. And lastly, we are going to have twin engine deck based fighter. So these are the 6 variants. These are the 5 variants that we are having. Next is about the medium compact aircraft program. So in this, the advanced medium compact program has now taken over the medium compact program. Now it was earlier known as the medium compact aircraft program. It aims to develop 5th generational compact aircrafts. So it is in developmental stage. Now what are the other 5th generation compact aircrafts? One is F-22 Raptor and F-35A of US. Then J-20 Mighty Dragon of China and Sukhoi Su-57 of Russia. So these are the 5th generational aircraft under the medium compact aircraft program. Now next thing that we have is that there has been a previous year question with respect to this aspect only. It was asked in last year itself, that is the recent prelims. So the question was, consider the following statement: Rafale, MiG-29, Tejas Mk1. So how many of the above are considered as the 5th generation fighter aircrafts? So please post your answers in the comment box. Now the next topic we have is about ad hoc judges. Now this is in the backdrop that Supreme Court has cited a backlog of over 18 lakh criminal cases and has allowed high courts to appoint ad hoc judges up to 10% of their sanction strength, but no proposal has been received yet. Now there are certain keywords. The first and foremost keyword is ad hoc judges. What are these ad hoc judges? And do High Court have the ad hoc judges or Supreme Court has the ad hoc judges? So we are going to see what technically the Constitution says. Now first thing is about the vacancies that are present in the courts of ours. Firstly, if we see the Supreme Court, there are more than 70,000 cases that are pending in Supreme Court itself. With respect to High Courts, there are more than 60 lakh cases that are pending in High Court, and out of that, more than 18 lakh are criminal cases. So that is the state of Indian judicial system. Last one is lower courts. So again, there are more than 4.1 crore cases that are pending in the lower judiciary. And one of the reasons for it, it's not the only reason, it is one of the reason is that there is vacancy in the judicial positions. For example, in Supreme Court itself, there are vacancies. In High Court itself, there are 327 vacancies. In lower courts, there is vacancy of 5,122. So there is vacancy in the judiciary. That's why these cases are also pending. Along with that, there are also other reasons due to which these cases are pending. For example, the flow of the cases is not quite good. Frequent appeals in the higher judiciary, that is also one of the reasons for having higher cases. So there are multiple reasons, but one of the important reasons is having higher vacancies in the judiciary. Now, why we need ad hoc judges? Ad hoc judges simply means that we are going to have judges which are going to work for a specific period of time so that this burden can be reduced. Now, for that purpose will be to clear the case backlog, and the tenure will be temporary. They are not permanent judiciary members, they are temporary judiciary members. And they have the same authority, same jurisdiction as enjoyed by the High Court or the Supreme Court judges. So wherever they are appointed, either in Supreme Court or in the High Courts, they are going to have the same authority, powers and privileges as the regular judges have. Now there are certain conditions which the Supreme Court has put while appointing the ad hoc judges. First condition is that the appointment should be between 2 to 5 ad hoc judges. Second thing is that it should not be more than 10% of the sanctioned strength of the judges for that particular High Court. For example, if we say a particular High Court is having 30 judges, which is sanctioned to that particular High Court. For example, Rajasthan, if we say, just for an example, then the maximum ad hoc judges that can be appointed will be 3. So they can appoint a maximum of 3 ad hoc judges in their High Court. Second condition it says is that the ad hoc judges are going to sit in a bench which is presided by the sitting judge of the High Court and decide pending criminal appeals. Next thing is that what are the constitutional provisions regarding this? See, additional judges or ad hoc judges can be appointed both in Supreme Court as well as in High Court. The first and foremost condition for that is that the person who is being appointed as an ad hoc or an additional judge should be having the requisite qualifications to be a judge for Supreme Court or High Court, wherever he has to be appointed. In this regard, we have actually two options. First is that we can pick some persons who are already serving. Second option we have is that we can ask or request the retired judges to return to the bench and preside over the cases and help out in clearing that backlog. Now, with respect to Supreme Court, the Article 127 clause 1 says that CJI, who is having the authority? CJI. So CJI is having authority with the prior permission of President. So these words are important here. With the prior permission of President. So first of all, he has to take permission from President. After taking the permission from President, he has to take consent of the High Court Chief Justice, and then he can appoint any judge from High Court to the Supreme Court bench. So a CJI with prior permission of President and consent from the High Court Chief Justice can appoint a judge from that particular High Court to the Supreme Court. And whenever a judge from the High Court is appointed as an ad hoc judge to the Supreme Court, in that case, the first priority of that particular person will be to fulfill the duties of the Supreme Court. And he is going to get the same privileges as enjoyed by the Supreme Court. So this was about the Article 127. Second is that Article 128. Retired judges can also be requested that please you come and help us out with clearing the backlog. So the Chief Justice of India, again with the prior permission of the President, can request a retired Supreme Court judge to return to the bench and help out with the clearing of the backlog. So this is the second condition we have. So there are two constitutional provisions in which the Supreme Court can appoint additional judges. One is ad hoc judges from the High Court bench. Second is the retired Supreme Court judges. Now, there is another thing, that is with respect to High Courts, because High Courts are also having a huge vacancies of the judges, and there's a huge backlog of the cases also. In that case, Article 224 allows President. Who is having the authority? President. President is having authority to appoint or temporarily increase the strength of the bench. So he can appoint additional judges which will be having a tenure not more than 2 years. So a person can be appointed for less than 2 years as a High Court judge, and he can help out in clearing the arrears of the High Court. Second is the acting judges. Who is an acting judge? Acting judge simply means if a High Court judge is not able to fulfill his duties due to ill health or due to some other reason, in that case the President can appoint an acting judge. Acting judge will be replacing the already serving judge in the High Court. So again, that person will not be having, the person will be appointed by the President, and he will be appointed as for a temporary purpose, and as soon as the permanent judge comes back, that particular temporarily appointed judge has to vacate the seat. Secondly, the higher age limit here is 62 years. So not more than 62 years they can serve. So their age should be less than 62 years. Now another condition with respect to the retired judges is that some retired judges of the High Court can also be requested by the Chief Justice of that particular High Court with the prior permission of the President. Whose permission? President's permission, to sit at the bench and fulfill the responsibilities. So with respect to High Court, the powers are with President and the Chief Justice of the High Court. It is under Article 224A and it is under Article 224, where they can appoint additional judges to the High Court bench. Now these judges will be having the same allowances as that of the judges, but however these allowances will be determined by the President. And in case the president has not determined the allowances, then their allowances will be same as that of the other judges. They possess the jurisdiction, powers and privileges of a High Court judge, and they will not be considered as permanent judge of the High Court. So this was about Article 224A. Now you are in a position to attempt one MCQ. Please attempt the MCQ and post your answers in the comment box. Now comes the last topic of the day, which we are going to discuss in detail. It is from the editorial page of the Hindu. Now, this article about India-Mauritius relation is in the backdrop of that our Prime Minister is going to visit Mauritius on March 11 and 12, and he is going to be the chief guest for their National Day, which is celebrated on March 12. So, our Prime Minister is going there. Now, we are going to review what kind of relations India and Mauritius have been. And basically, the whole article have discussed about the significance of improving our relations with Mauritius. Now, let's start. First of all, before dwelling further, one update is there. The update is that India has said that India is going to support Mauritius in the Chagos issue. Chagos Island, as we have earlier also discussed, they are below Maldives and they are presently under control of UK. There is one important island also, Diego Garcia, and that Diego Garcia is the military base that is jointly operated by USA and UK. And if we see, here somewhere here are the Chagos Islands, as I have pointed out on the map. These Chagos Islands are having a strategic location in the whole of the Indian Ocean because they are in the middle of the Indian Oceans. So US and UK wanted that this Diego Garcia, they should be able to maintain it further also. But recently there have been some updates in which the UK and Mauritius have moved further over this Chagos Island issue. Diego Garcia is one of the important islands of the Chagos Island. Chagos Island actually are a group of 60 islands. Now, this red dot actually is the location of the Maldives Islands. Now, these Maldives Islands are important. Why they are important? It is important from the GS paper to international relations. The question can also be asked in the mapping part of the prelims. Now, there have been some previous questions from this topic, from the topic that India and its neighborhood and international relations. The questions have been, for example, Project Mosam is considered as a unique foreign policy initiative of Indian government to improve relations with its neighbors. Does the project have strategic dimension? Discuss. It was in 2015. In 17 also the question was on China. So about India's relations with neighborhood, it is an important topic that we study in the international relations topic. Now coming back to the topic, 70% of the population of Mauritius, that is actually the Indians. So Indians actually constitute 70% of the population of the Mauritius. Indians here means that they have the Indian origin. Actually, the Mauritius have been under occupation first under French, then under British. French have ruled the Mauritius for around 80 years. That is from 1729 to 1810, it was under the French occupation. Then Britishers occupied it, and from 1810 to 1968, almost 150-160 years, it was under British occupation. And these islands were used for sugarcane plantation. So from where the laborers are going to go? So these Britishers and French, they actually used to take laborers from India and they used to use them in sugar plantation in this Mauritius. Many of those people who went from India to Mauritius actually got settled there. And this is a 70% population of the 1.2 million population of the Mauritius that is predominantly having Indian origin. So first of all, we are having a deeper cultural ties with the Mauritius. Secondly, the first Indians which were brought to the Mauritius, it was in 1729 and they were brought from Puducherry. Puducherry again was a territory of French only. Now Britishers have actually transported more than 5 lakh Indians to the Mauritius between 1834 to early 1900, and 2/3 of them have settled there itself. There is one Divas, that is Apravasi Divas, that is celebrated in Mauritius. It is celebrated on November 2, and this marks actually the first batch of the arrival of the Indians through ship Atlas to the Mauritius. Now, Mahatma Gandhi has also been related. When Mahatma Gandhi was in South Africa, he also visited Mauritius in 1901, and he advocated for educational, political empowerment and enhancing ties with India. So there have been connection of Gandhiji along with the Mauritius. Now, next thing comes is that how have been the bilateral relations of India with Mauritius? India has actually enjoyed a very good bilateral relations with Mauritius. We have been very close friends, and you can see from the discussion itself how we have been close. First of all, just after independence in 1948, India developed diplomatic ties with the Mauritius. Mauritius got independent in 1968. And from 1948 to 1968, India was having diplomatic ties with Mauritius, and there was an Indian commissioner who was posted in Mauritius. After 1968, when Mauritius got independent, there was High Commissioner that was appointed there. Now, what are the key areas of our cooperation? There is maritime security issue, developmental partnerships, capacity building, technical assistance, and cultural ties that are the bedrock of our relations with the Mauritius. Now, India is the first responder to any challenge that Mauritius faces. India is actually a brother to the Mauritius. For example, during COVID-19, India actually supplied a lot of medicines, Ayurvedic medicines, and Indian medical team was also posted there to fight with the COVID-19 menace. And in response, during the second wave of the COVID, Mauritius also donated 200 oxygen concentrator to India. So depending upon the size of Mauritius, they were actually trying whatever they can do best for us. So there have been a good ties of India with the Mauritius. Secondly, one more event was there, recent event was there, that is Wakashio oil spill, which happened in July 2020. During that event also, India supported the efforts of the Mauritius in fighting that oil spill. So India sent 30 tons of equipment, 10-member technical team there, and INS Nirikshak was also sent to fight with that oil spill challenge. Now, talking about the trade relations, India enjoyed a trade surplus with the Mauritius. The total trade for India and Mauritius, it actually amounts more than $800 million, and it is a recent figure of 2023-24. 24-25 is yet to come. Now, India's exports are around 778 millions and Mauritian exports are 73 million USD. The main things that India exports to Mauritius are petroleum, pharmaceuticals, cereals, cotton, seafood, meat, and in response, we actually import vanilla, medical devices, aluminium alloys, and refined copper from there. Next thing is that the FDI. Mauritius is important for India from two perspectives. First of all, the strategic location that Mauritius is having, it is in the near the coast of Africa and in the Indian Ocean. So it is somewhere between that. Secondly, Mauritius is having liberal tax laws, and that's why a lot of FDI comes from Mauritius. It actually originates from Mauritius. So if we see, since 2000, almost $175 billion of investment has actually come only from Mauritius, and it amounts to 25% of the total FDI inflows in India. Secondly, India actually amended the double taxation avoidance treaty in 2016 because it was being misused. After that, there has been some dip, but now it is again rising. Mauritius stands at the second position with respect to the FDI source. The first one is Singapore. So Singapore is the largest source of FDI for India. Second is the Mauritius. Now, Indian investment in Mauritius, it amounts to around $200 million. Now, next thing is that Mauritius was the first country from Africa with which India has signed the CEPA, that is Comprehensive Economic Cooperation Partnership Agreement. It was signed in 2021. And under this, India has exported around 3 million USD exports, and Mauritius exports have been US dollar of 5.7 million. Now, next thing is that what has been India's assistance to the project. So, India has actually assisted a lot to the Mauritius development. If we see, in 2016, there was a special economic package, and it amounted to around $353 million. It included Metro Express project, Supreme Court, new ENT hospital, social housing, digital tablets for school children. Then in 2017, we actually extended a line of credit of around 500 million US dollars. It was for metro projects, social housing, firefighting, vehicles, solar power plants. Again, we are having key institutions there. They include Mahatma Gandhi Institute for promoting Indian culture. It was established in 1976. So see how back our relations go, how back our collaborations goes. Then there's a Ravindranath Tagore Institute also. It was formed in 2000, and its objective is Center for Studies for Indian Culture and Tradition. So we are promoting Indian culture also there. Now there is World Hindi Secretariat, which was established in 2018. It is situated in Mauritius only. So that is an important thing. It is for the promotion of Hindi language. Then there are in the cultural aspects also, to promote people to people ties. We are having Indira Gandhi Center for Indian Culture, established in 1987. It is the largest Indian culture center abroad. So it is established in Mauritius. So see the importance that we accord to Mauritius. Then there is No India program also, in which we actually tell about what is India. We spread awareness about India. So around 367 Mauritian youths have participated since 2004. Then there are scholarship and training programs also. For example, ITEC, Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation. Under this, there have been 400 training slots annually. 4,686 students have been trained under this since 2007-8. Then there is ICCR Maitri Scholarship. 60 scholarships annually are given since 2024. Then there is E-Vidya Bharati, Arogya Bharati, E-Webhav, distance learning project also there. Now it has also been increased from 86 enrollments in 2020. The enrollment is now 2029 in 2022. So this has been our collaboration with Mauritius. Now in terms of more people to people contact, we see that the Indian diaspora that is living in Mauritius, it is around 22,000 Indian nationals are living in Mauritius, and 13,198 overseas citizens of India card holders are also there in Mauritius. So see how much closely we are linked with Mauritius. Then there is a special OCI provision for Mauritius itself. For Mauritius, the lineage up to 7th generation is allowed. It has been recently announced that up to 7th generation, if their parents have been Indian, then they will be given the OCI cards. So this special provision has also been accorded to Mauritius. Then tourism, if we see, there have been a cross tourism and many of the Indians go to Mauritius. So around 80,000 Mauritians in the pre-COVID era 80,000 Indians pre-COVID era used to visit Mauritius, and 30,000 Mauritians tourists used to come to India. So there has been a close tourism relations also with Mauritius. Then with respect to Indian students in Mauritius, around 2,316 enrollments in medicine, business, hotel management, etc. are there from Indian side in the Mauritian institutes. So this was about the India-Mauritian relations. Now one thing that I want to tell you is that you have to write down that which is the capital of Mauritius. So you should be knowing about that. Secondly, one question is also posted in front of your screen. You have to write down the answer and you have to post that in the comment box. So with this, we conclude the discussion for the day. I hope this would have been helpful for you. Thank you very much.